Download this code from codegive.com, link in the description below. Flux GitOps tutorial for Kubernetes. Overview *. Flux is a GitOps tool that automates the deployment of applications in Kubernetes by monitoring Git repositories. When changes are made in the Git repository, like a new application version or configuration changes, Flux will automatically apply these changes in the Kubernetes cluster. In this tutorial, you will learn how to set up Flux in your Kubernetes cluster, connect it to a Git repository, and deploy an application using GitOps principles. Prerequisites. 1. Kubernetes cluster. You should have access to a Kubernetes cluster. You can use minikube, kind, or a managed service like GKE, AX, or EKS. 2. Kubectl, the Kubernetes command line tool. 3. Git, a version control system to manage your application's code. 4. Flux CLI, the command line tool for Flux. Step 1, install Flux CLI. You can install the Flux CLI by following these commands. To verify the installation, run. Step 2, bootstrap Flux in your cluster. 1. Connect to your Kubernetes cluster. Ensure that your kubectl is configured to connect to your Kubernetes cluster. 2. Create a Git repository. Create a new Git repository, for example, on GitHub or GitLab, to store your Kubernetes manifests. 3. Bootstrap Flux. Use the Flux bootstrap command to set up Flux in your Kubernetes cluster and connect it to your Git repository. Replace your _username and your _repo name with your actual GitHub username and repository name. This command will do the following. Install the Flux components in your cluster. Create a Git repository if it doesn't exist. Set up a Git repository with the specified path. Step 3, define your application. In the Git repository, create a directory structure for your application. For example, if you have a simple Nginx application, create the following files. Step 4, configure Flux to monitor your application. To tell Flux to monitor the Nginx deployment, you need to create a customization resource. Create a file called customization.yaml in the clusters/mycluster/nginx directory. Step 5, commit and push to Git. After creating the Kubernetes manifests, commit and push the changes to your Git repository. Step 6, verify the deployment. After pushing the changes, Flux will automatically detect the changes in the Git repository and apply them to your Kubernetes cluster. You can verify the deployment by checking the status of your pods. You should see the Nginx pods running. You can also check the services with. Step 7, access your application. If you are running your Kubernetes cluster on a cloud service, like GKE, EKS, or AX, you should be able to access your Nginx application through the load balancer IP. Run. Find the external IP and open it in your browser. If you are using minikube, you can run. Conclusion. You've successfully set up Flux for GitOps in Kubernetes. You can now manage your application deployments through Git, and Flux will ensure that your Kubernetes cluster reflects the state defined in your Git repository. Next steps. Explore Flux's features such as Helm releases, notifications, and automated image updates. Learn how to handle secrets securely with tools like sealed secrets or external secrets. Implement CI/CD pipelines to automate the testing and merging of changes into the main branch of your Git repository. Useful links. Flux documentation, https://fluxcd.io/docs. GitOps principles, https://www.gitops.tech. By following this tutorial, you should now have a good foundation in using Flux for GitOps in Kubernetes.